Hey, what's going on, everybody? I wanted to talk about the 2K news that they just dropped with the gameplay and things. So they had dropped a whole gameplay blog. Kind of just wanted to go over a few hot things. If you haven't seen the trailer, you gotta see the trailer. So there's a few things that I look at and I'm like, hey, you mentioned this every year. Let's see if you actually do it. And the few things that I looked at, I was like, all right, this could be interesting. I'll say one thing: if you watch the trailer, that I might play for you, but I don't want to get demonetized or strike because of the quality. Yeah, it's gonna be that right there. You can see that they focus. I feel like every year they focus on weird things. So I'm gonna show you here. So all right, these animations generally look pretty similar to the animations we used to. That dunk was a little bit interesting. The movement looks pretty similar. The animations look pretty similar. That bump is kind of. Are they trying to hint at us that, oh, look at this bump? We try to fix defense. That pass, I've always had a problem with 2K's flashy passes. Like, do something a little bit more fancy. Make it look cooler. The flashy passes don't look cool. Anyway, so they're trying to show off a little bit of things here. So they showing off dunks. Are they emphasizing dunks? Which the gameplay definitely did try to emphasize. So you have to differentiate. Is it a highlight, or are they trying to show us something? And so I think those two are a little bit of something. Just based off of the gameplay trailers, the gameplay trailer and the gameplay blog, it seems like dunks and slashing have been an emphasis, and also these dribble moves here have been an emphasis. So let's see. The thing I really wanted to talk about were these out of bounds dives that you see these guys be doing. See that? They showed a dive at least 2-3 times. I think they're gonna show mellow diving as well. Another bench contact, another dive. So those are like things I'm like, are they focusing on dives? That's a weird thing to focus on. All right, but let's get through this. So they did already talk about how they wanted to make the power forwards less OP, and they said that smaller, I believe Mike Wang said that smaller players will be what most people gear towards, just because it's kind of what people like to do, being small and fast. They said that was really a big emphasis. So let's see. They said they wanted to go over defense, but man, we see about that. If you're a great perimeter defender who enters space well, we wanted to be able to clamp up, dribble as a force pass. If you're rim protector, we wanted to give you the ability to send weak shots away. So they said they worked on the shot contest and blocking system that were completely rebuilt. But at the same time, we don't see how those things work out. They always say that they rebuilt or revamped different things. I know last year they're talking about revamping foot placement. Now they're talking about actual, gameplay things that we can feel more, like we can see more. They said they eliminated ghost contests, which is very cool because a lot of people were just like, he's not even close to me. Why am I getting a contest? And that they're trying to reward the better, good contests, properly crowding defenders with good shot contests will result in plenty of bricks, which I think most of the time they do. I didn't mind too much this 2K because even in real life, you get a light contest, you can still make it. For floor defenders, body up rides and bumps feel much more rewarding as the motion team has dramatically improved the feel of on-ball defensive movement, unwanted bump steals, and snatch. But anyways, let's talk about this first. So they did talk about defense being an emphasis, and that's something that I wanted to see, right? That if I'm in your way, I'm in your way. And that was something that this 2K21 Next Gen did not really have. So that would be interesting to see how they go with that. Bump steals is a thing that I think most people very much dislike. I'm dribbling, I'm doing my move. He's not even reaching towards me. He's reaching out of position, but just because of latency of playing online, I'm dribbling that way, and then he gets a steal, even though he has a 25 steal rating. So what's interesting is they say they give both the ball handler and the on-ball defender more freedom of movement and respected inputs. And I don't know what that means. Because obviously you don't want to OP the ball handler, right? They can just dribble around everybody, and no matter if you're in their way, you just go around you. That's not a cool thing. But then how do you also give defenders more freedom of movement? So that's an interesting thing. Shift, launches, stops, and cuts all feel much tighter, and with even more new-gen foot planting. Again, this same thing they were talking about last 2K. You'll see a lot less sliding on both ends of the floor, which should be interesting. Again, they say that kind of thing. They said it last 2K. Let's see if it works any better this year. Steals also received an upgrade with greater emphasis placed on the steal attribute. Now, this is an interesting thing. Bump steals don't require steal attribute. 25 steal rating, you can get bump steals as easy as a guy with a 99 steal rating. The only difference of steal rating did was really on steal animation attempts, where you won't get as many foul calls if you have a higher steal rating, and 2, when you are actually getting into an animation where you're swiping at the ball, you're not going to get you're going to get a more favorable animation, but with a lower rating, you're going to get a less favorable animation. Low-rated stealers get sluggish animations that punish them when they reach. Now that's an interesting thing. You see, they use the word sluggish, which with offensive rebounding in old 2Ks, if you just had good positioning, your offensive rebounding attribute really didn't matter. You just jump up and get the rebound. Your vertical was way more important when it came to rebounding. If you had good positioning, your guy would just snag, I got high vertical, I'm going to snag that rebound. But the more recent 2Ks, if you had low offensive rebounding, even if you were right there and the ball is right in your hands and you had defensive rebound chaser, Hall of Fame, but the ball is right there, you have a low offensive rebound, you're not going to grab it because your offensive rebound is low, which is reasonable to balance out that to make that attribute more important. Definitely when you're playing, it feels, kind of unrewarding, but it's definitely a good thing to have, and I just realized that I should probably move this to the side. I'm still working. Anyway, while high-rated stealers with good timing and opportunity will be able to pick pockets at a much higher rate, also be prepared to see more layup and dunk strips. Now, this is something that I don't think I've ever really seen too much of. Like, it's very infrequent. And I guess in real life, when a guy is, going to the rim, heavy and without control, they lose the ball a lot. So it'd be interesting to see if that's kind of how they're trying to balance out drives, because again, that was a huge problem in 2K21 Next Gen, that drives were kind of OP. People would just drive in, they have to tone down dunks and all that kind of things. So maybe this is one way they're trying to, combat that. Definitely next 2K, I want to make a good defensive player. I think that is definitely going to be a high focus of mine, to be a good defensive player. Great defense may not always be featured in real life highlights, but all of these improvements are what I'm most excited about for NBA 2K22. Who wrote this? Yeah, I mean, more balance is fun. Who wrote this? Mike Wang, boy, my boy Mike Wang Baluba. Nice. Now, defensive AI. That's an interesting one because a lot of people, hate defensive AI. Are really dumb. And even for myself, I don't like playing off ball, but I recognize that to a certain degree, you have to correct 2K's defensive AI. Because that guy's standing here, but he's in a completely wrong position, so I got to shift him over. We're doing a pick and roll, I have to switch to the center's defender to guard the pick and roll better, the roll defender, because he's going to be way out of position. He's not even blocking. If you just run Hall of Fame difficulty and you run pick and roll, you can just run around the center. You can run around the screen's defender every single possession and get a dunk. Like, what are you even doing there? And you can't change the setting. You can't put it to catch hedge. You can't do it to hard hedge. Like, those things don't benefit that play at all. So it's good to see that they're trying to actually work on it, and we'll see how it works. Admittingly, I will admit that switches were very good. I'll give it to them. Switches were very good in last 2K. If you actually went into the menu, which how many people actually go into the defensive settings menu and try to change switches? So let's see what they say here. Was a major focus of next-gen AI front. Czar, which has a YouTube channel who talks a little bit every now and then about 2K, and the AI team wanted to create a strong foundation to build on for many years to come. A lot of legacy issues were addressed through the complete and thorough rewrites of almost all major defensive systems in the game. So that's a cool thing that they're talking about. Legacy issues, by that they mean things that persist generation to generation of the game, iteration of the game. So you're playing 2K20, you're playing 2K15, and you see, oh, this issue is still persistent. That's a legacy issue. So that's a good thing to see that they're working on those, because let's be real, legacy issues are going to be there for a long time just because of the way that people who make the game think. New on-ball defensive positioning logic gives defenders more consistency in their positioning regardless of their distance from the basket. New on-ball defensive positioning logic. I'll say this. In 2K13 on the PS3, I recognized, because I like that game, so I play not too infrequently, that if you're outside, if you're a defender, okay, playing defense, you're holding L2, L2 does a very different thing when you're outside the three-point line and inside the three-point line, right? So if you're, for example, guarding Steph Curry at like half court, L2 is very different than if you're guarding Carmelo Anthony on the high post. And so I realized that it was smarter to be literally a step in. If you're outside the three-point line, like further away than the three-point line, you'll be a little bit like sluggish. Your movement will be weird. Whereas if you're inside the three-point line, your movement will be more appropriate to play defense. So maybe that's something to talk about. I didn't notice that too much this 2K. I'm not sure if anyone noticed that. I didn't really notice it too much. I know that 2K has this weird like magnetic effect where if you're a certain, like, if you're supposed to be going away from the basket, but the camera's on the basket, it's kind of like doing weird stuff. I know that, but that'll be interesting. This enables a much less jittery defender who knows where they want to be in all phases of defensive positioning. That's tough. I'll be honest, I'm a very jittery defender. Like, I'm trying to read and react more than I'm trying to lead, but we see how that, what does that even mean? This, along with motion improvements, allowed us to tighten up general defensive positioning. Motion improvements, which means gamers will feel more defensive pressure on ball than was present in last year's game. So they're still talking about AI here, right? In all phases of defensive positioning. This, along with motion improvements, allowed us to tighten up general defensive positioning, which means gamers will feel more defensive pressure on ball than was present in last year's game. We see how it goes. Brand new hedge defender logic, and that's just what I was talking about, right? Like, you're playing pick and roll defense, your roll man, your screen defender is just playing such bad defense. Unless you're switching it, I'll give it credit. Switches were pretty good. They were decent. I won't say they were fantastic, but they were decent. Catch defenders in a specific focus for what they react to the ball handlers. In the past, hedge defenders' primary focus was their man, which led to the AI actively abandoning the ball handler. Oh, 100%. They would literally just let the ball handler drive straight to the basket, wide open for a dunk, and not even give a contest. And you're like, what are you doing? I know that's the problem a lot of people had, and that I even had, and that's why you gotta be able to switch from on ball to off ball strategically, and maybe this will help people who don't like to switch. The ball handler would have an open lane, which would in turn force help to come from the strong side, leaving easy open jumps on the post. This year, our hedge defender can focus on the ball and play two offensive players intelligently covering the deepest threat, which is what you do in real life, right? Like, if you're playing screen and roll defense, you got this guy, you got that guy. You're going to be where you need to be depending on who's the bigger threat here. Like, oh, they're both coming to the basket. Okay, he's forward. Okay, now he's here. Now if you contest and get back and play good defense. Our drive help was also built from scratch this year to give our AI help defenders more intelligence in their calculations for when to send help on the drive, which is good because I know a lot of people complain like, Shaq, you're right under the basket. Why aren't you helping me? Or Mutombo, why didn't you block that shot? It was so easy. Why didn't you even jump? So that'll be interesting. We also increased help defender logic, controlling movement speeds requested in help situations. Requested? Like, we asked for it? The AI will no longer send a defender to double a standing offensive player 30 feet from the basket when a user requests drive help. Oh, that is so good, bro. Like, drives were very strong in 2K. They're always strong in real life even, and so you want to have drive help. And so I tried different things in the defensive settings to try and manipulate how can I get the best one to work. And what I ended up doing was I ended up doing double team on post on dribble, right? Anytime the ball was dribbled in the post, it would double team. And so that helped me just because if any player went to the basket and stopped for a moment, even if they didn't hold L2, the double team would slowly start to come. The problem was if guys drive to the basket and they didn't stop at all, no double team came and he go to layup. So I'd have to at least be able to slow them down with the on-ball defender for my double team to come. But I had to do that because double teaming on drive helps in the defensive settings did not work. It was hot garbage. There was no difference between that and then on catch. Like, the guy would just get the ball and the double team would immediately start coming. And it's like, he hasn't even drove. Once he gets past the 3-point line and maybe he's about to enter 15 feet, about to enter the paint, then you collapse hard with the double team. Oh, and then if he's dribbled back out, then you run back. It's not logically difficult. The problem is AI is very difficult. I mean, computer learning is I'm not teaching the computer the right thing to do. I'm telling the computer this is the right result. You got to figure out how to get there. And if they don't get there, they don't get there. So that's good to see that they're working on that. This year marks okay, bro. This is already a long video. I probably should have just streamed it. Yeah, that's what I don't know. I'm working, bro. I'm trying to see. I'm not a good YouTuber. All right, let's see. Oh, I see some screen floppies and pin downs, bro. They were so bad in that. This year makes the most significant update to find out the defensive rotations we've ever done. Okay, that's cool. I know if you do double team post, the defensive rotations are pretty good. We now have the ability to have both single and double rotations to take away the first and second pass lanes. That's what you need, bro. That's what you need. Look, in real life, you help the helper, and that's basically what that means. Single and double rotations are helping the helper and helping the helper. Helping the helper's helper. Yeah, that's literally what they're doing here, and that's great because that's what you need in real life. And that's why they have shell drills where they'll have 4 defenders and 5 offensive players, and you got to rotate really well to be able to play defense. So that's really good. This creates more opportunities for second and third pass to find the open shooter, which is good, and I think the game was decent at that. We also gave our AI the ability to anticipate certain play actions like flopping and down screens, which is cool, because if I can see a down screen, admittingly from 2K camera angle, I would think experiencing a down screen is pretty obvious, and you can kind of like switch it early, because that would be a big problem. Literally, you could have a guy in the corner, right? You could have a guy in the corner, come set a screen for him, and his defender would obviously get stuck on screen, but the screener's defender should, come up and switch, but they wouldn't even do that. They would go off the screen. Once he got hit by the screen, then he would switch, and now he's already open for a 3. So that's a good thing. When the AI properly detects these situations, which is not hard, because these situations are offensively integrated, you just need to combine them with the defense. And I'll tell you that it does look a lot of times like the offensive engineering, offensive brain of the game is very different than the defensive brain. Like they have 2 people working on them, like they're 2 separate things. I'll give you an example of if you click, I believe it's the right directional button, what you can change offensively is very different from what you can change defensively. And to me, that showed that they're not congruent. They're not working together. They're working separately and then coming together every now and then. So that's a good thing to see. When the AI properly detects situations, they should be able to see it. That's what I should say. Off-ball defender can go into what we call chase behavior, which is good. Okay, cool, yeah. This helps AI defender take the proper route against screens to put themselves in a better position to navigate and avoid screen contact. This helps with the overflow and spacing on both sides of the ball. Overall flow and spacing on both sides of the ball. Okay, lastly, we also added a brand new cutter help defensive system. What could that mean? So I'm still looking at this like that's still not the best way to guard pin downs in the NBA. In the current modern NBA, you see guys like LeBron and Draymond literally same situation. They're setting a screen. LeBron, Draymond's like, yo, switch, play zones, play sides on the screen. And that's what you do in 2K when you're playing Rec or Pro-Am 5v5 or something. You're like, yo, play sides on the screen, even if it's an off-ball screen, which is more dynamic because, they have more ways to go off of the screen. We added a brand new cutter help defensive system. Does that mean cutter off-ball cutter or on-ball, like the guy has the ball and he's cutting, or he's off-ball cutting? Let's see. This system helps to fill in defensive gaps and sends help anytime a player has a clear path to the rim. Okay, that's good. You don't want to give up a layup. You might give up a 3, unless you put, of course, tight or what's the word? Smother, deny. I think it's called deny. Off-ball setting, like Steph, you put deny on him so no one ever leaves Steph open. This system helps to fill in defensive gaps. Okay, this system can pick up the cutter that sends a rotation defender to cover the helper when possible. Yeah, that's good. All systems make our dribbling. Okay, I think I'm going to end this video here and live stream the rest of it because there's still a lot left. Okay, so appreciate you guys watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.